Here we are back live at the Ice Den in Scottsdale again. We got the Coyotes going on the ice here in just a few minutes. Welcome into the Coyotes Podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Can't speak. We need Leah back right now. And leave a 5-star review. I'm Petey, along with Craig Morgan, as always. And today, we have a very special guest. And I'm going to read this. This might take me a minute here. His title: the Coyotes Director of Hockey Operations and Salary Cap Compliance.
Do we get it all?
Oh, nice.
Do we get it all?
It's a mouthful.
Does that take 2 business cards?
Yeah,
Is it
it's
foldable?
2 lines. I'm trying to get to 3 one day. That's the goal.
That's impressive. I wish I could. I don't even have a business card. But David Ludwig joins the show today, and we're going to talk all things cap related in today's show. So welcome to the show.
Yeah,
we might
thanks
talk
for
some
having
other things too.
Yeah,
We
whatever
are?
you guys got. I'm ready to.
Yeah. Are you actually ready for this?
I'm ready. You tell me what you got.
Well, Craig's going to start us off, and I have no idea what direction we're going because I did not read the show run.
No, it's not surprising.
It is not.
See, he already knows who you are. So let me preface all this. What you do is mostly secretive, actually. I don't think a lot of cap guys actually go on podcasts to talk about what they do. And we're, of course, not going to ask you to reveal any state secrets because, I don't want to end up dead in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah.
But what you do, first of all, is critical, just critical to this organization. We'll get into that in a minute. But David, first of all, I want to get a little bio on you for our viewers. So tell us where you're born.
Yep. All the good stuff.
Tell us all your childhood loves. That we don't have to dive into it that much, but
I want to know
give us a little
his SATs.
bio.
I want to know
first
his
of all.
SATs.
SAT
Yeah,
score,
yeah, there we go.
all that good stuff. No, I'm from Los Angeles, California originally. So, I grew up kind of a diehard Kings fan, which is probably not a great thing to
not
say
good
start,
in
buddy.
Coyotes, in Coyotes world.
Not good.
And I'll just tell you one love story is that my wife and I actually grew up on the same block
Get outta here.
in Culver City, California. We grew up like 10 houses
Did you
down
know
from
her
each
as a
other.
kid?
Yeah, we went
Get
to
the
middle.
hell outta here.
Yeah, went to middle school together, and I used to walk home from school with her. So we went our separate ways. She went to U of A actually.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I went to Boulder, and so we got back together after college, and still together. So,
Two former Pac-12 schools.
2 former Pac-12
Oh,
schools.
there you go.
Yes.
Too soon?
Yes, too soon.
That's
That does hurt a little bit. Yeah.
When you were progressing through school, what did you have your eye on? Did you know what you wanted to be at an early age? When did it become clear to you?
Yeah, I always had my heart. I wanted to stay involved in hockey. I played hockey my whole life growing up, and I knew I wanted to stay involved somehow. I thought I wanted to be a hockey agent. My dad actually went back and looked at, what do you want to be when you grow up? Kind of a booklet one day, and it said hockey agent when I was like, 10 years old or something. So, I went to school with that kind of in mind, and I had an internship with the Rocky Mountain Rage, which was like a team in the CHL in Colorado when I was an undergrad, just doing ticket sales, stuff like that. But just to see how it kind of runs behind the scenes was fascinating to me. And then, that's why I went to law school, was to eventually become an agent one day.
Where'd you go to law school?
University of Denver is where I went to law
Okay.
school. Yes.
But you went to
Undergrad somewhere
right?
else.
Somewhere else.
My undergrad, I went to the University of Colorado in beautiful Boulder, Colorado.
Have you heard of it? They
Have
have
you ever been there?
apparently they have a prime
have.
location.
Oh,
Prime
boy.
Academics.
All right, let's just get into this, and let's just say it outright. You're a CU fanboy, aren't you?
Why would you say that? Is it the Blunder's glasses?
He missed
I don't know why
You've
say
got
that.
to be kidding me.
Oh
Oh, my
my God.
God.
I had to bring a prop. I thought this question might come up.
And they're here this week, too.
They are here this
They
week.
are.
Yes.
We're going to get to that
Yes.
in a minute.
Yeah.
It hasn't exactly been a good run for CU. I don't know if you were there for part of the good run with CU, or if you've seen any good runs with CU.
My first couple years, we were okay. We were still in the Big 12 at that point.
Yep.
We won the Big 12 North my first 2 years.
Wow.
And then we actually got crushed by Texas in the Big 12 title game the first time when they had Vince Young. And then the very next year, we got crushed like 72-3 by Oklahoma when they had Adrian Peterson. So it was like back-to-back, tough goes. And then it was the low periods until this year, and it's been quite the turnaround and quite fun to be a part of it.
No, but you're just talking about, and I've swept up. Who hasn't been swept up in prime mania?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to admit, I might root against them sometimes because I don't know. They were the underdog, and now they're not so much. So will you be dialed in this weekend?
I'm going to try to be. Unfortunately, we're playing at the same exact time.
Shoot, we're going to be there too.
Down in Tucson.
We're going to be in Tucson.
We will be.
Actually, a funny story is that so I do our preseason scheduling as well for the team, and when we made the schedule, we knew we were playing Anaheim on October, the 5th, 7th? down in Tucson. And I knew that the Buffs were playing Arizona State that day here. And I just assumed because of the heat and things like that it would be a night game. So I pushed my counterpart with the Ducks to maybe make it an afternoon game, and it has come back to backfire on me thanks to the Pac-12.
It should be 8 o'clock start.
It should be an 8 o'clock start. That's what I thought.
And you'd have been laughing. You'd been back here in the desert.
Would have been perfect.
I think it's only going to be like 94 that day.
Yeah,
so
it's perfect. It's great.
Yeah,
Perfect day.
Perfect football.
So obviously, Prime got off to one hell of a start with the Buffs. It's been a little rough the last couple of weeks, although nice rally last week. How big of a fall would it be from week one if the Buffs were to lose at Sun Devil Stadium on Saturday?
I mean, we were 1-11 last year, so when this year started, I was hoping for 6-6, something like that. So the fact that, we're 3-2, we beat a pretty good football team in TCU there. We beat both of our rivals with Nebraska and CSU. It would be disappointing for sure, but I think Deion said after last week, like if you don't see what's coming with CU football, you're crazy, So I think with the recruits that we've got coming now, just the fact that we started 3-0, I think it got the ball rolling, got the recruits coming, you got the NIL money coming in. So I think the future's bright no matter what happens Saturday. But
sounds like a booster.
But I think it's going to be a good day on Saturday. But we'll see.
Let's move on from college football.
Yeah.
I want to find out how you ended up, also Denver-based. How you ended up with Kurt Overhart, who I've known. I think I told you the genesis of our relationship. It was the Kyle Turris negotiation.
Yes.
So it didn't get off to a good start, but I like Kurt. I've talked to him a lot. I have great respect for him. And I know you work for him, and he praised the hell out of you when you came on board here. How did that relationship start?
Yeah, no, Kurt's a great man. He gave me my first chance. So kind of crazy. I went to law school. I played hockey my whole life. I went to University of Colorado, went to University of Denver for law school. And then after my first year of law school, I studied abroad over in London.
Oh, like Leah.
Jesus, Leah.
I studied abroad.
Here we go.
Fit the vibe.
Here we go.
You could just replace Katie on the show.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Studied abroad.
So anyway, so I studied abroad in London. When I came back, it was the start of our second year. All my buddies had internships at different places, and it didn't even cross my mind that I was supposed to be doing that or looking for that. So I was kind of in a bit of a panic. And first week of school went by. I'm sitting on the couch on a Friday afternoon. We get these career services emails, and you get 1,000 emails. You don't read them, right? But I wasn't doing anything, so I opened it, and it said sports intern, click here. So I clicked it, and it was hockey intern, click here. And I'm thinking, wait a second, this is pretty cool. So it says, the description's like, you must have a general knowledge of the game of hockey and be passionate about it, right? And so I took the weekend. I got my resume together. I got my cover letter together. I sent that in Monday. I interviewed Wednesday for the job, and then Friday they hired me. I was an intern for my last 2 years of law school, and then Kurt, luckily saw enough in me to hire me out of school, and then I was there for 8 more years. So I kind of went from having nothing to having my dream job in a week.
Well, you're going to school. By the way, for everybody that's in school right now, that's how this usually works, getting a job. You send out one resume and then your career is set.
One, yes. In the field you want to go into.
Yeah, exactly, buddy. Did not work that way for me. Anyway, but that is awesome. So now you go from that where you're on one side of the hockey game.
Yeah, working for an agent.
Working for an agent.
The dark side.
It is the dark side. And when you're on the other side, the agents are the dark side, especially in the job you have right now where you're negotiating and working on these contracts and you're the capologist and keeping the money down and they want the money to go up. So how do you go from that side and get onto the team side with the Coyotes?
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy way that it unfolded. I wasn't looking to get out. I loved working for Kurt. I still talk to him all the time. He's one of my mentors and friends. But there had been times over those 10 years where I had been approached by other teams. Kurt kind of has a factory of guys that do my job. So Ryan Miller in St. Louis is the assistant GM there. He was at University of Denver, then with Kurt. Josh Flynn in Columbus, Ryan Martin, who was with the Red Wings for a long time, now with the Rangers. So I'd always kept in touch with those guys, and they just said, if you ever want to make the switch, let us know. We'll, put some calls in, whatever. So, I'd thought about it, looked into it. Nothing really came to fruition. It didn't feel like the right fit, for most of the time. And then, obviously, Bill got hired, during COVID, and everything was kind of up in the air and going on there. And when he got hired, I'd actually kind of heard through the grapevine that Ryan Miller in St. Louis may come with him. And so just out of, kind of a joke, I texted Ryan 3 cactus. And I was like, are you going, And he's like, no, I'm not going. But I've heard that he might be looking for someone. And would you be interested? And I said, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. So I talked to Kurt about it the next day, and he's like, Bill's a great guy. You should talk to him, like go through the process and see what it's about. So I told Ryan, give Bill my number, and Bill called me and asked if I wanted to interview. I said sure, and I put together a presentation. You talk about good omens and signs. We had done like spring cleaning at the KO offices like the year before this. And we had a bunch of extra jerseys lying around, and I always liked the Coyotes jersey. So we had like a Chris Kalanos Kachina jersey and a Jeff Tafe, like the red and white one, Wow. So I had both of them at my house, and I was just going through the closet, and I found them. So for my first interview, I actually hung them.
Get the hell out of here.
Behind me, and I was like, I don't know, this seems like
money.
a good, yeah.
Look at this.
So anyway, I went through the process, and then I flew out here, met with Bill, met with Javier, met with the ownership. You could just kind of sense that their passion and what they were trying to do, and to turn this thing around and build a winner, which has never really been done here before, So, we came out, and then the nail in the coffin is a good one too. My wife came out. We met Bill and his wife for dinner. He wore his Stanley Cup ring, and he kind of showed it to me, and he said, I know you like working for Kurt, and I know you like being on that side, but there's one thing that you can never get over there. And here it is. So that was
Nice
that's always the
sales
dream.
job.
So
So let me adopt my Office Space voice here for a moment.
Yes.
Because not a lot of people are familiar. I mean, they have a general sense, but
Yeah.
what would you say you do here?
That's a fair question. I do a little bit of everything, I guess I would say. I think, one of the cool things about my job is that no 2 days are ever the same. And I kind of get to have my hands in a little bit of every department of the organization.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit cyclical. Right now we're trying to make sure that all our roster paperwork is in. We're making sure that we're compliant for opening day, on next Monday. All our guys had to go through waivers and just all that sort of stuff. I do a lot of the budgeting for the season, which I think probably a lot of people don't realize. We're figuring out how much we're spending on sticks and flights and all that kind of stuff.
You had a major hand in planning Australia, I know.
Yes,
Yeah.
Australia, that was a big one. And then, obviously I think the summertime is kind of when my season really kicks in. I'm obviously here during the season. I go on the road with the team, fairly often, but in the off season, that's when we're doing the contracts and the arbitration cases. I write all the briefs, for the team. That's kind of my main focus, using my legal background to try and do that, and then plan ahead for, the signings that are going to come, how much money it's going to cost us in terms of salary cap planning, all that sort of stuff. So a little bit of everything.
Go ahead.
I have one question about that. You brought up arbitration, and we've talked about that on this show a lot. And it's you praise and you love all the players on your team all the time, and then all of a sudden now you have to go into a different arena and go, we hate you and we don't like you, and you're deficient in this area and you're deficient in that area. Psychologically, what's that process like for the management side?
That's honestly probably been the biggest, change for me, because I had, I think, probably 6 or 7 arbitration cases on the agent side. And in that sense, you're just trying to get, the best deal for your client, and
Right.
you've got the PA on your side. But on this side, you're walking a fine line, right? Because it's one of the few situations where the player's in the room for those hearings, right? And he's not on all the phone calls with the agents, obviously. But if you actually go to the arbitration hearing in Toronto, he's there. And so that's a different dynamic, because at the end of the day, we had it with McBain this year. We had it with Krauser last year. You want those guys back. Like, they're big parts of our team. And, I think the way that we try and explain it to them is, hey, just like you're doing your job on the ice, like we're doing our job here. We know you have a high value of yourself, and we do too. But at the same time, we have to look at the marketplace in the NHL. We have to look at the other guys that are out there. And we have to think about the other 20 guys on our team, right? 21 guys on our team, and make it all fit. So it's nothing personal, and that's what we try and tell them. It's easier said than done, but
Amen to that.
It is what it is.
Yeah. I want to dive into this just a little bit more, because I understand what your summers are. Your summers are chaos. But I don't even know if it's fair to ask you what a day in your life looks like, because it probably changes every day with all the things that you do. Like, what are you doing right now to prepare for the season?
Yeah, I mean, that is exactly right. Every day is a little bit different, like I said. So right now, the main thing we're focused on is making sure that our roster's all set. Like I said, we're making sure that we're allowed to have 23 guys on our active roster starting on Monday. But at the same time, we've still got the contracts of Shea Weber and Brian Little and guys like that, right? So Voracek. So we have to file the right paperwork for those guys. So right now, it's it's dealing with the roster cuts. This year training camp was because of Australia. We had 73 guys in camp to start. Normally we have 50.
73.
Yeah, I mean, we had 10 PTOs and all the ATOs and then rookie tournament and all that sort of stuff. So the last few weeks have honestly just been making sure that everything comes together for Monday and that we're compliant. That's, kind of the one job Bill told me. He's like, don't ever let us go over the cap and don't let us ever not be compliant with something. And I said, okay. So it's that. And then it's a lot of just like league matters. Like you have to get certain paperwork in by certain days and that sort of stuff. So really right now it's just a lot of it's making sure we're set and then planning for the season and, how much cap space are we going to have? What's the roster going to look like moving forward? What can we do at the deadline? You're starting to get ahead of that stuff too.
We talk about the number of contracts. We brought this up a lot too, that you're allowed to have 50 contracts for the season. And we think you have 49. We think you do.
Right.
I hope you know the answer.
That is correct. I do know the answer.
You always know the answer.
Yeah, I don't get paid to know the answer. But at 49, does that still give you enough flexibility to do things that you need to do throughout this season?
Yeah, I think so. You always want to have the most flexibility you can, whether it's salary cap space, your reserve list where you're allowed to have 90 players, including your undrafted or your unsigned players.
Yeah.
The 49 contracts. So I think it does give us flexibility. I mean, it's one of those things where last year and in the previous years, we probably had a few more contract openings, but I think our roster probably wasn't as set either, right? So, where last year we kind of knew we wanted Ivan to have a year in Tucson. So we were probably going to have to target a goalie on waivers. So we kept a contract spot open. We knew that there was a good chance Valley was going to go on waivers from Calgary. That was the planning we had done ahead of time. So we left a contract spot open, things like that, right? So this year we've signed Dumba, we traded for Jersey. We've got Cooley in the mix, So I mean, it's something that we're aware of. We know we're at 49 contracts. I think there's 5 or 6 other teams that are kind of in that 48, 49 zone. It's something we're aware of, but I wouldn't say we're stressed about it or worried about it or anything like that.
I wanted to ask you about this. The salary cap hasn't even been around for that long, but 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't remember every team having someone that really specialized in this area. Maybe you remember it from the agent side dealing with teams on this, but
everybody's phone is going off.
Yeah, that's that phone alert.
Everybody's phone.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we knew. Did you turn yours off, buddy?
No, I didn't. But I heard it here in the building anyway. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
Back to the 10 to 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How much more complex has this job gotten in the past decade plus? I mean, and then throw in COVID-19, a flat cap, aside from all the other complexities of the cap.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of nuances. I think when the salary cap first came in, it's a little bit like analytics now. Like everybody's kind of trying to figure it out, right? And still take that next step and figure out what's important, what's not important. And so I think, since 10, 15 years ago now, there's so many different ways to go about the cap. And, COVID-19 was its own world, right? That was my first year here. All my buddies at other teams are telling me, if you can get through this, you can get through anything, right? Like there's guys going on the taxi squad to save cap space and things like that. Yeah, that's right. So there's so many little nuances of it. And I think, now you see it in Vegas winning the cup last year with Stone on the long-term injury list, right? And then coming back, Tampa with Kucherov the year before. There's different ways to do it, and it's not enough just to spend to the cap now. You have to spend over it, right? Vegas was at $100 million almost. Tampa at $100 million almost. Toronto, those types of teams, right? So I think last year, more than half the league was in LTIR by the time the season ended. So it's evolved a lot. I think there's the flat cap was probably a good thing for us, to be totally honest with you.
Created opportunities.
100%. There were other teams that were cap strapped, and we had ample cap space, which we could use as I don't want to say a weapon, but we could use it to help us. And, and we were able to get players that helped us at the time, the Andrew Ladds of the world and Anton Stallman, guys like that were great leaders for us, as well. But we were also able to get some draft picks out of it. We got, Dylan Gunther through the OEL trade and, JJ Moser through the Ladd trade, right? So, anyway, there's a lot of complexities, a lot of nuances, and I think it's important to have this job, not just because I'm trying to keep my job. That's not why I'm saying that. But
job security.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's complex for sure.
But you look at one of the things that interests me is you look at a player like Clayton Keller. He signed years into the future, and you've got several players on this current roster that have years left on their contracts, and you don't know exactly where the cap's going to end up, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road. You, on your office wall, how far into the future do you have to plan and check boxes to make sure that you are not just compliant this year, but for several years to come?
Yeah, that's the hardest part. I mean, we try and do 5 years, to be honest. if we could go longer, we probably would do that too. It's just at some point, you're just throwing darts at a wall, right? You don't know what this guy's stats are going to be, so it's hard to project what his next contract's going to be. But at the same time, it's I've probably got, I don't even know how many spreadsheets open on my computer at any one time, plus Google Sheets and tabs and all this stuff. And then, you're not just looking at your own cap too, right? But you're looking at every other team's cap situation too, right? To figure out, are they going to have to make a move here and that sort of stuff. So I've got, great help. Chase Glassberg in our office. He works with the pro scouts to identify, teams and situations and things like that. So, there's a lot of planning that goes into place. And, we do our best. We've got a bunch of guys that are up after this year that we're kind of trying to get ahead of now, just in terms of planning and what that could look like. So, it's controlled chaos, I guess.
So when you play such a key role in all of this, and you see this starting to happen now, and obviously we're still in a period of transition. Bill has said it himself. I mean, he said it on media day, I'm not sure we're a playoff team yet, but you're taking a major step forward. How excited do you get when you start to see some of the fruits of your labor?
Yeah,
on the ice?
It's awesome. It's an exciting time, I think, to be part of the franchise and part of the organization. I think it's exciting for the fans. I know it's exciting for our players. I think Australia was great for us, to be honest. We have a pretty young team, and so for the bonding aspect of it, for them to get together and start to know each other a bit better and get comfortable, it's exciting. You've got Cooley in here now. You've got Gunner here. Even Keller. Like I've watched Keller for a long time. Like Nick Schmaltz was one of my clients on the agent side, so I always kept track of the Coyotes quite a bit. Christian Dvorak too. But to see Kells here every day and the work that he puts in and just how skilled he is, like in practice and things like that. The pieces are starting to come. You know what I mean? And now, you're going to mix in Zuber here coming into the future. You're going to mix in Maverick Lamoureux. You've got Connor Geekie, who's going to play a big part of this. Not to mention our 2 first-rounders from last year with Simashev and Boot. So I think it's a real exciting time. I don't know, like Bill said, I don't know what our future holds this season, but I think there's a different vibe, I would say, in the team, and we're just kind of excited to get going. And here we go. Here we go.
We talked about skill on the ice. And so the natural transition is to talk about your game, because apparently you still play.
I do.
And you're playing in adult leagues. We call them beer leagues, but I don't want to imply that you're drinking beer after you play hockey.
I would never.
So we're calling it adult league for you.
Yeah.
And this is a true story.
Uh-oh.
I'm not making this up. I got a phone call from my son, who also plays adult league, but for him it's absolutely beer league. And he said, "Do you know David Ludwig?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I think I just fought him in our game tonight at adult men's league." And I go, "Jackson, really? You fought?" And so can you please confirm or deny, did you fight my son at adult league?
I don't think that I fought your son at adult league. I think there were maybe some words exchanged at in the heat of the moment there. But no, we had it's a pretty good league that we have here.
I love this.
I still love playing hockey. Like I said, I played my whole life, and I played in Colorado the whole time I was there. I actually ran my team there, so it was hard to come here. But so I play a couple nights a week here. And
Good for you.
I recruited a couple other Coyotes for the summer season too. So
we'll do some more reporting on that incident.
Yeah, you know what? I might, now that I know you're still on the ice, I am absolutely going to come cover one of your games.
You have to.
Can't wait.
You have to. I play D now. I play forward my whole life, but that's a lot of too much effort now.
Yeah.
I like to stay on the back end.
All right. I am supposed to ask you about one other thing before we let you go here, David. I'm supposed to ask you about your your helmet choice at Skating for Leighton. A source asked me to question you about that. So what can you tell us? I was hoping to get a photo, actually, but I didn't get it.
I will send you a photo.
Okay.
That thing is great. It's like a yellow Jofa Gretzky era helmet.
Nice.
But it's like bright yellow. I found it we were playing in a beer league tournament in Aspen, Colorado, and we walked into the room and it was just like sitting there.
Get out of here.
Oh yeah. And so I still have it. It's an incredible.
Like the official bat. Can you believe they used to wear those?
Yeah, we're talking about. Yeah, I used to wear it on the ice too.
Oh, it's incredible. But it's incredible that they wore that like in an NHL game.
Yeah,
there's
it's like a kid's little plastic thing.
No safety. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Well, I can't wait. Make sure you send the picture along to Craig. And sincerely, I know you got to get to work. These guys are on the ice literally as we speak, and you got to go to work. We just want to thank you so much for coming in and enlightening and educating our fans a little bit on what it is you do, and wish you the best of luck in the season to come.
Yeah, David, thank you for finally. I've been trying to do this for a while, so thank you for finally getting on the show and maybe peeling back the curtain a little bit, but not entirely.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome, and we appreciate all the work you guys do. So, thanks for everything.
Thanks, David. You know what everybody here can do is they can start to think about their BetMGM getting ready for the weekend. I know you can't bet on the Coyotes yet, but you can bet on college football. You can bet on the NFL. So just download the BetMGM app because it's a lot more exciting to watch these games when you got skin in the game. And right now we're going back to the MLB playoffs starting today, just around noon. So make sure you get onto the BetMGM app and get into the game. Sign up for BetMGM. Use the bonus code PHNX. Place your first BetMGM sportsbook wager through the sportsbook mobile application of at least $10, and you will receive $200 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. And I will tell you this, I will be betting on the Minnesota Twins today. I don't know if you watched them yesterday. Elite, Diamondbacks, Elite. I think the Diamondbacks are going to close today too.
That was a great game,
so
by the way.
Here's the parlay.
Wagon.
The parlay is the Minnesota Twins and Diamondbacks money line closing out so they can rest up for the next series. So that's the PD's money line tip of the day. Jump on, hammer it, because I'm going to hammer it. And in the meantime, check out the show notes for more details. And now, listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
Yeah, and I tell you what, that was a great interview, but I'm getting a little hungry. It is getting closer to lunchtime, at least for me, for both of us, because we get up at 5 in the morning. Yeah. So it is almost lunchtime, and I'm excited because in just a matter of days, you and I and Leah and Emma will be producing that show. So Emma will be along with us, and we're going to be at the Illegal Pete's in Tucson.
First time.
On University Ave.
I can't wait.
My son, he literally lived a block from there, and he would go there all the time. 2 stories. It's a 2-story building. So we will be at Illegal Pete's at 1 o'clock on Saturday.
I interviewed Connor Garland one time while he was at Illegal Pete's. Yes, it's true, in Tucson. While I was playing for the Roadrunners.
So if you're in Tucson and listening, if you're going down to the game, we will be at Illegal Pete's at 1 o'clock. It's just an informal meet-up before, because we need to have lunch before the game starts, and then the game afterwards down in Tucson for the Coyotes and the Anaheim Ducks. I tell you what, we've talked about Illegal Pete's a lot. I'm excited. I haven't been in a while, because when the hockey season, I don't make my way down to Tempe as often as I should. So I'm excited we get to go down to Illegal Pete's. Stop in if you're there in Tucson, and if you're not, stop into the location in Tempe for it's unbelievable food, friends. Wait, what is it? Buddies and beer? I want to do something with F. Food and friends. We got to work on a third F. Man, but get your mind out of the gutter, Craig. Illegal Pete's is your go-to spot. This fun, friends, and food.
It's not where I was going, so he was right, but go ahead.
Illegal Pete's is your go-to spot this summer. Stop by for happy hour 3 to 8 p.m. every day at all 12 locations. Illegal Pete's, the go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beer, or food, fun, and I've already got my third F. Friends.
Friends, there you go, buddy. Friends.
There we go. For 28 years. Okay. Well, we now we understand how the team was built, and I think now the next step we ought to talk. We're 10 days away, Greg.
I know, it's unbelievable, but here we are. I'm ready. I'm so ready for the season to start now.
And you are going to be a part of this first road trip.
I am.
It's a rumor I heard. Yes. You're going to the East Coast, similar to last year, where this team's going to start off on the road. So I thought we would take a look today at what the expectations are, what this road trip looks like versus what they did a year ago. And is there a benefit to starting off on the road? Because sometimes they've already been to Australia. Do they need more team bonding?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you would know that as well as anybody. You were in that room for so many years and around it. But yeah, Australia already was a really good situation for bonding. And as we've discussed already, that was the NHL roster. So it's not like there's going to be an insertion of anybody else from the South side, like literally anybody else, it looks like, as we're looking at this roster. So I don't know if they need it, but I don't think it's a bad idea. The thing that I think about, first of all, last year was insanity.
Yep.
Last year was insanity. They played 16 of their first 20 games on the road. That's nuts. And that was, even though they didn't come out with an awful record, they started out hot, they tapered off. It affects you long after the 20 games are over. It seeps into the rest of your games. And I know this team did better than expected last year, overachieved, but it's exhausting when you're on the road that much. It's really hard to be away from home and away from your family. It puts a hardship on your families back here. There are a lot of issues with that. They don't deal with that quite on the same scale this year. They're still going to play 11 of their first 17 on the road. Crazy. So it's still a lot, but You get a 4-game road trip, and you do sprinkle in some home games. So I think that'll help a little bit with this team's start.
Yeah, and I can imagine the kids and wives and spouses and girlfriends and such and dogs are sitting there going, well, wait a minute, weren't you just gone for 9 days in Australia?
Peeing on a suitcase again, can't you?
I can.
Yeah.
And then now, we're getting on a plane again for another 7 days. Oh, man, that life is tough. But when we go to last year, let's go look at last year first. Last year, they started off in Pittsburgh, and they got shellacked 6-2. Then they go to Boston and get shellacked 6-3. But Toronto, and we all know happens. CWP, what happens when the Coyotes play Toronto? They win.
They always
That's
win.
all they do is win. By the way,
own the
Toronto
Maple Leafs.
fans send mail to @Craig S. Morgan. And then they go on to lose in Montreal and Ottawa before getting a win on that last trip. They started off the season 2-4 on the road. And I tell you what, they were giving up this one. We're calling it tennis scores because they were 6-2, 6-2, 6-3, 6-2 are the games that they
really
lost.
did feel that way.
So you talk about that. And this year, they have 4 games to start the season. Where are their expectations, do you think? Are they looking at, hey, last year 2-4? Can we do better than this starting off this season?
Well, I mean, you look at the opponents; it's not going to be easy, right? PD first, and I look at that whole cumulative thing. They went 4-7-3 in the next segment on the road, 6-11-3 overall. That's 14 losses in 20 games. Even with the NHL's fuzzy math, so it was a struggle for them. To me, when I look at this first road trip, we've heard all the chatter about the Coyotes could surprise some people this season. I hate to put so much importance on 4 games because it's a really long season, but you get off on the right foot on this trip, it could be a springboard. I'm going to be writing about this. This could be a springboard to the Coyotes at least playing meaningful games late in the season, but it's not going to be easy. Talking about the New Jersey Devils, who some people are now starting to say, okay, are they ready to contend for a cup? You're talking about the New York Rangers, who I know you love the Rangers, Petey. I'm not quite as high on the Rangers as you. But they're clearly a playoff team and a difficult out.
Yep.
You have the New York Islanders, who play a difficult style to play against, and then you fly halfway across the country to go play St. Louis. And St. Louis, granted, they're taking a step back, right? But it's not like St. Louis is a bad team. It's the tail end of a long road trip. You know how hard that is. So it's a tough road trip for them. But if they can make some hay on it, wow, you could come back and start feeling good about yourself.
And here's something to think about, Craig, especially as the season gets started.
Yeah.
Your identity of your team really isn't formed yet. And I think that bodes well for Arizona because you talk about the New Jersey Devils. A lot of guys are back. It's young. It's fast. But you're not into that midseason stride. You're not having guys on a 10-game goal streak. You don't have – your systems aren't there yet. Your team is – the game is a little sloppier in the first few games of the year, and I think that bodes well for the Coyotes being on the road because I think that there are less distractions. You're playing at home. You've got the home crowd. You've got families in. It's opening night. There's just more things going on.
Yeah, you've got beautiful Newark.
Yep, Newark. They probably got a little parade in downtown Newark on the way to the building. So I think that's – if you're going to play New Jersey, play in the first game of the year, because I really like the New Jersey Devils. I think that's a really good hockey team. I'm not sure if they're going to be there at the end of the season, but I think this is good for the Coyotes to play there first. And then the next 2 are tough because they're back-to-back.
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden's a tough building to play in, period. I don't care when you play them, what time of year. That is a tough building to play in. But guys get excited to play there. Just like they get excited to play in Toronto, you get excited to play in Madison Square Garden. The problem for me on that trip, the one game is going to be really hard is the Island because it's a back-to-back off of the Rangers. Guys are going to be tired.
Yeah,
and you're going to see both goalies.
That, just to get into the weeds a little bit, you do that sort of day hotel out on Long Island. I don't know how that all works out. Is it tiring? Is it just to have to move? And just hang out for a day? Like, what are we doing? And
it's interesting to see because I haven't talked to their travel guy Griff yet on that. What normally would happen is you would play the Rangers and then you either go that day and travel to Long Island after the game, and then you spend that day before going back to the hotel. But what I think they're going to do is I think they're going to stay overnight at their hotel that they're at for New Jersey and New York. They're going to stay at that hotel, and then they will go do a morning skate at the Island, and then they'll have a hotel room for 3 hours.
So you'll do a morning skate on a back-to-back, huh?
Yeah. Well, no, they won't. I'm sorry.
Right?
You won't.
Okay.
And the goalie will go in for shots.
Yeah.
But most of the guys, you'll have to go get a day room hotel.
Yeah.
It is. I don't. On that trip, the New York Islanders one is the one that scares me the most. And I think the New York Islanders style, too, it's a heavy, fast, hard team to play against. They've got some big body guys that play up front. I think that's going to be a challenge for this team on the second game of a back-to-back because, the Ranger game is going to be fast. It's high-skilled. You're probably going to be looking at killing a lot of penalties against the New York Rangers. They draw a lot of penalties with their style and how hard they get to the net. And so you're going to have a lot of tired legs by the time you play the Island.
Yeah, and you mentioned the energy of MSG, too. I wonder sometimes, like when even if the Coyotes have had some good games there, some good performances. We remember the bar down OT winner from Derek Stepan, who just announced his retirement. In fact, we're going to have Derek Stepan on the show next week, so look forward to that. But I wonder sometimes when you play at MSG, does it sap some of your energy? Because it's like performing on Broadway, then like when you step off the stage, it's like, I'm tired.
I'm sure it is. And that has to be draining. One of the things you look for is what you will try to do as a coaching staff then is you'll try to insert some fresh legs and fresh bodies and that are also looking, hey, this is only game 3 that you're going to play in the Island. So maybe there's a guy that's going to jump in the lineup or two guys and a goalie that are going to jump in the lineup that haven't played the night before. And that might spark them and give them a little bit more energy for that Islander game. And then to your point now, you get done playing in the Island, you got to get on a plane that night, fly to a different time zone, to a different city. You're going to get into St. Louis so late.
Yeah.
I think St. Louis, I'll take this one if you're on your BetMGM app. I like the Coyotes in that St. Louis game. I think that they'll do a light day the next day, and then they won't skate a morning skate. So I think they'll have energy back for the St. Louis game, and I think they play extremely well at St. Louis.
Keller loves to play in St.
Keller
Louis.
loves it there, and so I would take anytime Clayton Keller point, and I would take the Coyotes money line in that St. Louis game. The other thing though is now when they get back, they're not doing those trips they're coming back to the West Coast. They're playing. Their next road trips are in LA and then Anaheim. So they're not going back out to the East Coast right away again. So if they can survive this 4-game trip, I think that bodes well to set up the first 20 games of the season.
A couple things. First of all, you remember the back-to-back Washington and St. Louis? Thank you, NHL schedule makers.
Yeah, horrific.
Back-to-back in DC.
Horrific. And the airport's 45 minutes away.
They won both games. And if you remember, there were issues with the airport in St. Louis. I think the Coyotes got to their hotel room at like 4 a.m.
On a game day.
And then won the next day.
On a game day.
Yeah.
So I like them in that game.
The thing that drives me crazy sometimes about the way they schedule Coyotes games in particular, I did a look at this for other Western-based teams. When they go east and they're flying back home for a home game, they usually get 2 days in between. Yeah. What do the Coyotes get? They don't even get 1 day. Like, look at
it's 1 p.m.
It's a matinee against the Ducks at home after a Thursday night game in St. Louis.
After a 4-game road trip.
Done it again. NHL schedule.
That's their home opener?
Yes.
Is 1 o'clock in the afternoon after a 4-game road trip to the East Coast.
Yep.
Different time zones. That's horrific. You should have 2 games. They get a day and a half.
It's terrible scheduling.
Oh.
And look, and I don't know what's going on Sunday at Mullet, so maybe there's the show. You always have to take that into account, but ideally that game's on Sunday, right?
Okay, Craig, I'm going to put you on the spot then. 2 things I want to know. 1, where are you most excited to go out to eat on this 4-game road trip? That is the most interesting question of the whole entire season.
See, here's the thing. I don't even have to think about that in New York because I have so many good friends.
Really?
And every time I go back, it's, okay, where should I meet you guys? They organize everything. Like, I have a buddy that I went to. I hate to even say this because you're going to call me bougie as soon as I say it.
Prep school.
But a really good friend from prep school who lives in New York, lives in Brooklyn. And every time I go, he picks a different restaurant, just says, meet me here.
Yeah, and he's
batting 1,000.
And he nails it.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to pressure.
And
no
let's
pressure.
be honest, he also pays. So,
buddy, if it's free, it's for me. Free 99.
And then I go to brunch with other friends. I stay with a buddy in the West Village. I wrote about this in my last mailbag. He gives me a bed in his ridiculous apartment on the West River. So
I don't have those problems. I don't have friends. I eat at the closest place to the hotel. Makes it really freaking easy. So the closest place, I don't care if it's good, bad, or indifferent. Doesn't matter.
I love the New York trip.
And the last question I have to ask on this first 4-game road trip, how do you, this is just going way out there, I'm going to put you on the line. What do they come back with after that 4-game trip? What do they look like, wins, losses from their first 4 trips?
You going to answer this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to answer this.
Wow. This is tough for me. They're going to get a win. Will they get a second win? That's my question. There's a game's going to go into OT in this 4-game trip too. Can they get that second win?
I'd say that too.
If they can get that second win, this could be a good road trip. Try to play 500 hockey.
So you think 2-2 is a good road trip?
Yes,
I agree with that.
1-2-1 is not quite what you want. So
that's what they're going to be. I'm calling it 1-2-1.
Okay,
and the win is in St. Louis. The overtime,
Wow,
I'm
last
not.
game of the trip.
The overtime, I'm going to say is in Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
Because they've done it before in that building, and more than once where they've gone to overtime in that building. So I'm going a loss in Jersey in a tight game that is going to be. I'm going to take the over on that one because I think that's hardest for the goaltenders to get into that stride. So look for those early games to be high scoring, especially Logan Cooley and Keller debut together on the ice. And then you look at the firepower that Jersey has. I think that's going to be a high scoring game, but I think Jersey the win. Overtime in New York, the Islanders, they lose and they win in St. Louis.
Okay.
Do you like it?
I can see that happening. And of all the games that could go to OT, I could see it happening at MSG where they've had some incredible theater. Unfortunately, they don't have Derek Stepan to win it for them in the closing seconds of OT this year.
So one thing I think you should do is make sure you bring your Shady Rays on this trip to New York because you can bring several pairs. You can match all of your fancy suits. I think you only own one, so that's not too hard to do. You own your black suit, right? You own one suit?
I have more than one suit.
Do you?
Thank you.
Okay, well, you get a pair of Shady Rays with each suit.
Okay.
That would be the way to go. That's a bougie Craig move. And Shady Rays, you can do that because they're so cost effective. They protect your eyes, and we love Shady Rays.
Still waiting for you to pass me some of those Wayne Gretzky suits, by the way. So.
Oh, buddy. So exclusive.
He's too busy using them to dress skeletons in his front yard.
That's a true story. Wait till you see what we do today, by the way. But exclusive to our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use the code PHNX for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. And unfortunately, our set here is not dressed because we're only here at the Ice Den Scottsdale for just a very brief time. So we don't have all of our bobbleheads and decorations. By the way, most of the bobbleheads and decorations at the studio are Diamondbacks. It's because they make the playoffs. So when you make the playoffs, you get the accoutrement, and you get to have your studio dressed with all of the things like bobbleheads and designs. But if you need stuff getting ready for your sport, your team, please check out FOCO. And I want Sean to have the orange bib overalls. I keep talking about it. I'm going to get some bib overalls because I think I would look really good in them. I really do. And I'm not going to wear a shirt underneath it either.
I agree, but...
Oh, no shirt underneath the bibs. Painted body.
Syracuse plays at Yankee Stadium in November. So there's a chance I'm going to try and meet a friend
shirt,
of mine
paint
out
yourself
there.
orange.
I might pull out the...
And by the way,
overalls.
I looked at the chat for the first time. The Watts just said, "Is there any walking and talking?" There might be. It's not related to FOCO, but FOCO always has your back at the Arizona Sports. But that line doesn't make sense. Can somebody rewrite that? FOCO always has our back for Arizona sports, and they have yours too. Okay, I said it right that time. Get the best gear around by visiting FOCO.com using the code PHNX. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHNX for 10% off. And while we're talking college sports and college bib overalls...
Hold on a second. Before you transition here, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
How come when you use a word like accoutrement, it's not bougie, but if I drop it, I get endless shade?
Because there's two separate rules for me and rules for you. Okay. And my rules, there are no rules.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah, a few of our diehards were giving their predictions in the chat.
Okay, what do we got? We got
2-2.
Blatantly Asinine said 2-2.
He's got him beating the Rangers and St. Louis. The Watts 2-1-1. If they come home 2-1-1,
they're feeling good.
5 points. The Watts. I like it. Aggressive. Brady, aggressive 3-1. Wow, Brady. I don't know if you can drink that early in Kansas City, but maybe you can.
Robert also has him coming away with 3 wins.
Leah and I are in the same 1-2-1 boat. CWP's got 4 points, which is it's 2 wins, 2 overtimes, or 1 win, 2 overtimes, 2 wins.
So 1-1-2?
Yeah,
4 overtimes.
4 overtimes.
Please no.
Joel at 2-1. God, Joel again, 2-1-1. Like there's some aggressiveness. Robert, look at Robert Lee, 3-0-1.
Is anybody out there calling 4-0?
And can
I get a 4-0?
Can we see Ogie's math? There's 4 games, Ogie. Buddy, it's 2-0-0. Like there's 2 games that are just they're gonna get canceled.
Ogie, I'm right there with you. Okay,
maybe 2 games get canceled.
So go ahead.
The PHL Phillies crew was rocking the FOCO overalls at a postgame. I told you that.
Yeah, you left a letter off there.
Of what?
You said PHL.
That's close enough, buddy.
We're just used to no vowels.
There's Griff. There's the travel. Did you see
the vowels?
Did you see the travel guy, Griff? Griff has finally got to take a deep breath after the trip to Australia. He's David Griffiths.
Is that what he's doing right now? Looks like he's pacing.
Yeah, he's got anxiety all the time. He's not as anxiety-ridden as I am, but so let's talk about the coveralls. You had a very busy day yesterday. Well, at least that's what you told us. You sent pictures to prove it, but you were not in the studio on the show.
No.
You got to go to Mullet Arena yesterday. So let's switch gears from the NHL. And just for a minute, let's touch base on ASU hockey because they start this weekend.
Yes, they do. They play. Who do they play, Petey?
I think they play the U of A club team.
Yeah, they do.
That's not going to go well for the U of A.
Well, here's the thing. Like I was talking about this with some of the players because they basically had a mini media day where they put players at different tables and reporters could bounce around and talk to them. After Greg Powers spoke, you had the assistant coaches there.
Oh, nice.
Dana and Albie, who we just had on the show, were there to talk as well. So it was cool. It was good to get a chance to reconnect with that program because we haven't really been able to give them their touches with all that's going on with the Coyotes recently. But it's an interesting season for the Sun Devils, right? It's that last season of transition until the last piece of the puzzle is in place. They will join the NCHC next season. You and I have both talked about that. It's not like that's going to be an easy entry into that conference. That's probably the best conference in the country. They've won most of the national titles over the last little while here. But you also take out Robert Mastrosimone and Josh Doan. You wonder what this team's going to look like. Well, Greg Powers was preaching yesterday. He was like, we still have plenty of skill. Like you look at some of the players that they have. They have the Jacksons, right, coming back. They've got Charlie Shane, who's going to be healthy. I know people didn't get a good enough look at him. They got Ryan O'Reilly. They've got Lucas Sillinger. He feels like they have enough skill, but what they've really tried to do this year is get back to that old identity that ASU had when it really first came out of the blocks from club to Division I, be harder to play against. So they have added some toughness to this lineup, a lot of it actually, because he really wants them to play with that character. Tyler Gratton, by the way, enters the program and is named team captain. Says a lot, right? Yeah. Like, how often I asked him about it. He's like, it was actually a surprise to me. But it tells you what his teammates think of him, what his coaches think of him. It's an interesting season. I don't know what to think of ASU yet, especially coming off these weird last couple of seasons. Remember, they played their entire season on the road in the Big Ten. Yeah. It's sort of stalled their momentum a little bit, but they feel like they're getting back to it. They've added Albie O'Connell to recruit. They've added Dana as well. So they feel like they beefed up their staff, and it's making inroads in recruiting, as is the arena. So a lot of things coming together for ASU as they get ready to join a conference and add that last piece of the puzzle.
And you talked about some of the scoring leaving this team and some of the leadership, and we get to see Josh Stone here often in the program. Yeah. Where do you think one of the areas that they've been solid at is in the back end goaltending specifically? Yeah. So how do they feel? Filter. How do they feel about their goaltending going into this season?
I think they feel better about it because Homer Gibbs is probably going to get some games. If you talk to Greg, he'll probably tell you we overworked TJ a little bit. And I talked to TJ yesterday as well. He's like, no, they didn't. I'll go in every game.
I'll play.
He's good. Yeah. He wants to be in for every game, but they realized there were times where they probably taxed him a little too much. So Homer Gibson is at the point now where they feel like he's going to get some games. They don't know what that split's going to look like, but he's going to get some starts. So they'll be able to rest TJ a little more. It's going to be interesting to see how not only the freshman class from last year like I mentioned Charlie Shane, who was injured. I don't think people know how good he is, but that class, as well as the incoming guys, how much that they can contribute to this team. And you're going to start seeing, Albie talked about this when he's on the show, you're going to start seeing an influx of even better recruits. They're in, as Greg said, living rooms they couldn't get into anymore. Part of that's Albie O'Connell. We know what he did at BU, recruited like an insane list of players, including Clayton Keller. But also joining a conference is going to help because you have, first of all, you have the credibility of being in a conference. It's really hard to make the tournament as an independent. Greg mentioned it was like 30-some years. But when they did it, it had been 30-some years before when the previous team did it. You join a conference, you have that possibility, even if some things go wrong during the season of the postseason tournament, you have that carrot to dangle. Yeah. Like he's talked about how hard it was to motivate his guys when you're sitting like in the 20s in the pairwise rankings, and you know it's not going to happen. How do you get your guys motivated for the last 6 games of the season? It's really tough. Now they have that carrot. They have legitimacy. They're going to have rivalries. A lot of things coming together for this program.
The last thing I want to ask you about ASU is you've talked about they're getting into the NCHC a year from now, not right now. And so the things you just talked about, the tournament and trying to win a regular season, I think it's going to be a challenge for them right off the bat because there's some very established programs. So they're going to have to, they're going in running into that program. But what is a realistic expectation for this team for this season? Can this team make the tournament?
Well, it's hard, again, as an independent, but they have a lot of home games, the most home games in in the history of the program. So you've got that going for you. And this like people look at the schedule and like, wow, what they do, it's payback really for all the travel. As Greg said, because we traveled more than any program in the history of Division I college hockey, they're getting all the paybacks, all these teams coming here. So you have the opportunity, if some of these guys can step up, you have a real opportunity to get into the tournament this year with all those home games. And if you do, what a springboard that would be going into the NCAA when you're coming off an NCAA tournament, because you can sell that on the recruiting trail as well, right?
Well, I'm excited to see this program get started, and I think they're going to I'm
pointing to I want to talk about U of A as well. Like, I never got back to that.
It's a club team. So what do we expect this weekend, Friday and Saturday?
It's a no-win situation for ASU, right? If you win the game, well, of course you did. You beat a club team. If they lose, whoa.
Chaos.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's hard.
At the same time, I'm glad that they have this rivalry. It's cool that they play U of A.
I think it's good that those two teams play, and they're going to go into with a much different approach. The ASU is going into this, hey, let's not get hurt. Let's compete. Let's use it almost like an accelerated practice.
It's an exhibition game.
And for Tucson,
it's everything.
It's everything. Yeah. And so I think the mindset and the coaches have to meet before, and hey, let's keep this thing under control, because really, you don't want anybody from either side getting hurt. They have to understand what the stakes are. So I don't have any importance. Just like we talk about preseason games for the Coyotes, same thing for this. I don't care about the score. I want to see, if I'm an ASU coach, I want to see compete. I want to see guys starting to follow the systems that we've been preaching on. Yeah. And I want to have something to build on as we get into the regular season. I'm not looking at wins and losses. I really am not. And I know you don't want that chaos season. So they are playing. It's here on this Friday and Saturday, so people can go down and check it out. Can't they?
It's Friday,
it's just Friday?
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to it. Like, I'm going to be writing a little bit about this. I'll have some ASU notes just based off that media day. And one is on how this game came about. It's kind of cool.
Okay, well, if you want to compete too, the other thing you can do to compete is jump over to Splash Sports. PHNX is a weekly pick X. Is that a thing? DP, yep. And NFL Survivor contest. So you can go in and compete against others for real money head-to-head on an NFL Survivor contest. Head to splashsports.com/PHNX. The link is in the description to sign up. Deposit cash to get started. And guess what? It's only $5 to enter, and you can play for actual real money in this Survivor contest. The more you enter, the larger the prize. The more who enter, the larger the prizes are. So we'll be running weekly contests all year long. So make sure you go to splashsports.com. Head to splashsports.com/PHNX to join in. We'll have different contests coming out. So we are all stoked to compete with and against all of you. Be sure to click on our link in the description. The other thing I want to make sure you do is stop by your local Circle K. I have to go get gas because I'm driving to Tucson, and I know you are too. I didn't even ask. Like, I'm just driving because once it's over, it's over. I'm not sticking around. I'm not going to wherever bougie restaurant you want to go to. I'm leaving.
Wow.
So okay. I'm gassing up at Circle K before I go because I'm part of the inner circle, and I save 25 cents per gallon on my first 6 fill-ups at Circle K. I also can stop and get my sweat-free cup of Polar Pop. I like to say Polar Pop.
Yeah, I didn't like you saying polls yesterday.
You got to pull it. You got to pull the Polar Pop.
I was uncomfortable with
Grab yourself some snacks, some juicy snacks at the Circle K. If you know, you know. And yank on some of that licorice whips coming out. I am. I can't wait for the snacks.
We're back to it.
So the Inner Circle. So join the Inner Circle. And you do it for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Well, Craig, anything else? We got work to do. We got to go talk to these guys getting off the ice, and I'd like to see at least one drill. So thanks to the Ice Den again, Marcy and Matt Mendelson. We're in the Michael Hearn lobby at the Ice Den. If you want a place to cool off, check out the Ice Den. They've got open skating here all the time. So jump on and just Google your Ice Den Scottsdale and Chandler to find out when open ice is available to go skate. It is a beautiful way to get out of the heat. And I know there's still heat here. It's going to be over 100 degrees again today. So pop in at the Ice Den. So thanks to everybody here for hosting us today. Thanks for David Ludwig for having us. Follow everybody on social media, the show at PHNX_Coyotes, at Sean_DePaz, the man behind the Mac, at Craig S. Morgan, at Leah Morgan.
Nope.
No?
Nope. Nope. Never happened.
What didn't?
Leah Morgan.
Leah Morgan? I did it again.
Leah and I are not married. No.
I did it. Do you know how
we
can I do that? Because I do Craig S. Morgan and just rolls it at Leah Merrill. Sorry, Leah. I know you're listening. I'm sorry, Leah. Get well soon, and we'll hopefully see you on the show tomorrow. Leah. And I'm at S. Peters Hockey. Please follow the show. And you know what? I don't know why you're not listening to it on audio too. Like download it on your drive.
Amen.
It's everywhere
Right.
you get your podcast, it's there. Just sign up and get the alerts, and it'll download the most recent, and you can listen to what you're driving around town. Why wouldn't you want to listen to us?
Who wouldn't want to listen to
Buddy,
our voices?
Exactly.
It's like music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So download wherever you get your podcast today. Thanks again. Follow us on social media. Please give us reviews, thumbs up, all of that stuff, and we will see everyone tomorrow where we are talking a lot more Coyotes hockey. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.